Today's adventure is easily the wildest and most authentic I've ever been on before. I'm heading solo for 5 days into the wild and rugged mountains of Kosovo to see the hidden beauty this region holds, as well as test myself against the elements. You see, the mountain range is also known as the Accursed Mountains and is home to bears, wolves, deadly snakes, massive mountains, and charming hillside villages. And since Kosovo is one of the least visited countries in Europe, I knew this would be my best chance to explore truly wild mountains alone. I'd be carrying all my supplies with me and setting up camp wherever I ended up each day. The only goal for this trip was to find the most beautiful views I could and have one heck of an adventure. This is a journey into the mountains of Kosovo. I initially encountered a problem when arriving in Kosovo, as it seemed the only people visiting the mountains were there to see a site called the Rugova Canyon and not hike into the mountains. Therefore, finding trails to hike on were tough, and the only one I found left from the city of Peja. And after walking through the scenic farmland, the trail began just off the side of a small road. And unsure of where exactly it was headed, I said farewell to civilization and began to enjoy the nature that was surrounding me. I mean, to say this place is full of life would be a complete understatement. The spring weather at the moment is just incredible, and the sound of all the birds is just, it's so pleasant so early into this hike and this adventure, and I'm just totally in love with this place already. So as you can see, the first day was a tough one, gaining a lot of elevation in some pretty thick vegetation. And I didn't vlog much, to be honest, as I was just enjoying the nature as well as constantly being out of breath from the uphill trek. After a few hours, I reached the summit of the mountain I was hiking up, and man, was the view crazy. And this place is blowing my mind. I mean, nowhere online did I find anything that looked as good as this, and I'm just so surprised that it's so beautiful. I'm kind of glad that online there was such limited pictures available to see of what I was coming to visit. So now when I did arrive and see these views for myself, my breath is just taken away. This is also the place I'm going to camp tonight. And the main reason to camp here was so I could sit and enjoy the view over the canyon for hours and hours. And after setting up my tent, I made a campfire to warm myself up. I tell you what, if every day of this hike ends like this, I'll be the happiest man alive, because I've got my tent set up, I've got my fire going, and now I'm just sat listening to the sounds of the mountains. And after eating dinner, I just spent the rest of the evening in complete awe of the place that I had travelled to. After a great first night on the mountain, I set off along the ridge to see what today held for me, and instantly came across signs of how wild I really was. There was just fresh bear poo all over the place here, and like when I mean fresh, I mean this looks like there's still steam coming off of it. So I'm blowing my whistle and making a bit of noise. I don't want to startle any bears, but I'm feeling quite nervous. I'm hoping I can get back to a village quite soon. Luckily, it wasn't long before I found a very unused road leading to a small mountain village where I could refill my water bottles. I actually think I found my new favourite place in the world. I mean, this place is just ridiculous. Honestly, it beats, I think, almost anything I've been. And the fact that I'm completely alone, I've just passed some shepherds, but there's no other tourists, there's no other hikers at the moment. And I mean, the view from this village was just so amazing. I ended up sitting in the sun for about an hour and a half, just enjoying it and relaxing. I mean, I really don't think mountains get any prettier than this, especially when you don't have to share them with anyone else. And I just love being in the mountains so much. I was just so jealous of all the local farmers who could call these mountains home. But eventually I had to get moving, and there was no more paths for me to follow, so it looked like today would be an easy one, just following the roads in between the high mountain villages. I took it really easy that day and embraced every opportunity I got to just relax and enjoy the views that the Rugova Mountains had to offer. before eventually finding somewhere nice to camp. Here's tonight's campsite, and we're overlooking the beautiful Rugova Valley. And I mean, these views just speak for themselves. And I just couldn't believe I was wild camping in such an extraordinary place. Good morning and welcome to day 3. I've woken up this morning and it is freezing. It was really cold last night, but I managed to get myself nice and tucked up in the sleeping bag. But this morning it's still really cold, so I've got all my winter gear on. A bit overcast. I think it's quite a lot of rain's meant to happen today. So I'm going to head over this ridge and then down into the valley below, where there's a small village. I'll get some supplies, get some food. So you can see behind me is Rugova Valley, and that's where we're headed right now, all the way down to the bottom of the canyon there. But as you can see, there's huge rainstorms coming in behind me and over the mountains this side. So I'm having to put the camera away, tuck up myself in my rain gear and just slog it all the way down the hill. The rain just settled in for the rest of the day and I didn't film again at all. But I eventually made it down to a small village where I topped up my food supplies and spent the night. The next morning, I hitched a ride further into the mountains from a friendly father and son who suggested I hike up to a beautiful lake and camp there for the night. Right, so I just got dropped off at this little village. I'm not even sure what its name is, but it's about an hour and 40 minutes hike up the mountain to Lake Liquinet, where I'm going to be camping tonight. And those guys were the friendliest guys I've ever met, the ones who gave me the lift. And they didn't drop me right there, they dropped me all the way right up here, so I didn't have to walk up the hill at all. Awesome guys. Because the hike to this lake is actually quite popular, I've seen a few other couples already hiking up, which makes me feel a lot safer that I'm not just alone here with bears and wolves. There's actually other people, so I feel quite relaxed now. It also felt nice to be on a proper hiking trail after the previous couple of days walking along roads, and it felt like I had entered another region with all the boulders and alpine trees. It was really, really cool to hike through it. So there's so much more snow here than I thought there'd be, so it's making it quite fun walking along the trail, but I'm really hoping where I'm planning to camp tonight isn't covered in snow, because then it'd be freezing cold. Because already here, I mean it's midday at the moment and it's cold. I eventually made it to the frozen lake, and the hour-and-a-half hike was definitely worth it, as I had the whole place to myself, and it was way prettier than I expected. There's a massive thunderstorm happening right now, and the fog clouds are coming over these hills, and it's got really, really cold and quite rainy at the same time. But it's still so beautiful, and I hope it clears up so we can explore around this lake a bit more. But at the moment, just trying to settle in and storm this weather at the moment. I then made a fire to warm myself up and cook some lunch whilst I waited for the rain to pass, before exploring around the lake and playing in the snow. There is one benefit to having this ice and snow everywhere, and that is you can put your beer in the ice like that, and then after a few minutes you take it out, wipe the ice off, and you've got an ice cold beer with an amazing view of the mountains. This beer is actually called Peja, which is the name of the city just below this mountain range. But yeah, I'm going to sit here and enjoy this beer, enjoy the view, and then find somewhere to set up camp. I then found a nice place to set up camp away from the snow and tucked away deep in the alpine forest, where I slept for about 12 hours. The next morning I hiked back down the mountain and found a restaurant where I got a coffee and an omelette, and enjoyed the views one last time before hitchhiking my way out of the mountains. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe to join me on more adventures to the mountains and to other places in the future.